Hey, here's a fun way that you can contemplate yourself and free up your energetic memory. I'm going to simulate. So first of all, you're here immersed in the first person. And I always say there is the 0 point where you are outside of space and time. So being outside of space and time, who are you? This is like transcendental meditation or something really just pivoting to a different perspective. It's called also the innermost self. So from the space of innermost self, you are God self, yes. You are that being that creates itself into every other express beings, every other individuality. You see? Now before, you are in this first person immersion where you carry the weight of your karma. Karma being only the energetic memory of your now life and also your other lifetimes or other incarnations in the simulation, other time you play the game. So when you remove yourself all the way back, this is called God self or Brahman because there is only one consciousness. And then you will have also the divine masculine and feminine, which is like parental figures, okay, which is also like yin and yang. Now parental figures is something that comes before what is usually termed the higher self, because your higher self could be your future self or the self which is your archetypal form, which then incarnates into these simulations, games of life, and experiences itself as your soul lineage. Okay, I know that's a lot, so let's kind of like get laid back and see how we can explore this in a very fun fashion, yeah. So like fun, what is fun? Doing faces, I don't know, comical stuff. Okay. So first of all, imagining that you are non-existent right now is like you find where is the focal point, the point where you're projecting your awareness from, and you imagine you falling back into that point where your awareness is projected from. Now you can feel that spatially, and when you touch that point and you anchor yourself in that point, you can then do self-inquiry. Am I now beyond space and time, and who am I? Okay, and it will be like empty, because over there there's no even like archetypal personality or anything like that. So this is your Brahman, this is yourself, right? And this, you can also inquire if I am all seeing, all knowing. Am I everybody? In fact, am I then the projected awareness that is in every other individual? Like my mom, my dad, my girlfriend, my friends, my enemies, whatever, right? So that will already give you relief if you have inner conflict, okay, that's like your burden, self-doubt, or some kind of like tension in a relationship, whether you are talking to yourself, because we always have multiple perspectives that we're helping us to choose, but sometimes they can be overloaded with analysis, and that's like going crazy because like, I don't know, should I like do this or do that? I don't really want to do this because I don't want to do that because I want to really need this, but I really don't need that. So it can be hard to compute all of this energetic charge when we are debating, when we're having the inner choice, inner debate, right? Now, adding up more psychoanalysis will only charge the debate. Now, also, if you have this inner debate, inner choice, okay, like, what is moral? I don't know, should I eat yogurt or not? Or from a moral standpoint or like a health standpoint or whatever. Now, this can be a very charged debate, and you can see that in the actual collective where people are debating, right? So what is like right and wrong? There's no right and wrong. But the more you are charging the intellectual debate, the less synergy you get and the more mind stuff arises, right? So we want to actually relax from that. And these internal choice debates can be mirrored also when we're having a resistance to people, when we see people not as ourselves, when we see people not in love, is because on an identity level, we have something that we dispute, and we're projecting the dispute on that person that represents the values. So these persons are projections of our shadow, because in our shadow we are also everything, yes? So if we are identifying with being good, whatever that means in our projection, then we're disidentifying from being bad, whatever that means, but we're projecting then the bad person probably is going to be projected on somebody. And we're going to feel resistance to that somebody outside of us. You see? So whenever you feel tension or resistance in relationships, it's actually a mirror. That's how reality works. It's mirroring the inner tension. But the inner tension just needs to be synergized. In the same way, everything that we need to actually learn from our relationships is that our perspective and our assumed interpretation of reality is right for our own perspective, but also the opposite stands true if we take the other perspective. So let's say many people debate abortion, non-abortion. And I'm not saying here that either is true. It's totally relative to the standpoint of the person that is making a choice at their given situation, you see. But we try to fuel and we try to make this everything a politics, like a political debate, right? So the only resolution for any type of choice-based debate is understanding that both day and night are actually synergized. The yin and yang, the seemingly opposite perspectives, they are in a harmonious opposition, complementing each other, or there could be a seemingly situation that cannot be resolved. And this is we're just being stubborn in our own identity. So let's give an example. You can have personal identity, and broader than that, you can have tribal and national identity. Then you can have your racial identity, you can have your planetary identity, you can have gender identity, you can have all kind of identity that you identify with. Now, this can then be, we're unable to zoom out of our ego standpoint. So I'm identified with being a man, and I don't understand women, let's say. Or I'm identified with being like pro-Palestinian, and then I blame the Israelis for the conflict or whatever, right? So only conflict resolution or the synergy of two perspectives and we coming together in love and respect, working respectfully through our juxtaposed identities is when we can synergize these dualities. Okay, so this is called also polarity integration, when you have choice points and you don't know what to do because this voice is saying, yeah, you know, this is right. But you flip it, person sitting across the table, and they're saying, that is right. And you're saying, this is right. And the person across the table is saying, that is right. And you're having infinite dispute. And you're charging. Or you can see from their shoes and be like, you're right, that's right. And I'm right, that's right. So it's a mirror. Kind of like flipped. So zooming out of the identity and feeling, empathizing, or taking the perspective of another person. So if you are having these two voices, okay, like fueling any choice basically, any choice that you are deciding with your mind, you're going to say, okay, let's take the mindful, neutral, laid-back perspective and see, like, if they would work together in a marriage and be kind of like, yeah, I really want us to rest, but I really need us to work. So let's talk it out in a way that we can maybe first rest because we are very tired, and then when we're like, wake up and have a cup of coffee, then we can do it. Yeah, I agree with that. Right? So tension of the opposites, you can see it as a friction, frustration, or you can see it as a sexual tension, basically, because everything in the yin and yang, in the quantum, is sexual tension, or basically eros or tantra. It's the seeming also repelling of the opposite is actually attraction, because only the same repels itself. There's nothing to do. If you would be talking to yourself in a mirror, it's kind of like, okay, if you're channeling a new perspective for yourself, but if you know this movie Being John Malkovich, where everybody in the restaurant have the same head? If it was obvious that we are all God, but we all had the same personality, and everywhere you go, you meet another one of you, they look the same, like same beard, same face, same eyebrows, same hair, same shirt, exactly the same thing to say at exactly the same time, that won't be so fun. Would it? So we are then anchoring beyond space and time. And at that point, nothing makes sense, because our personal drive force, our personal desire, our personal frustration, or whatever, our personal karmic memory, what we're trying to do, who we are in love with. Do we love ourselves? Do we feel okay? Do we feel good about ourselves? Do we feel healthy, or do we feel disappointed at the time? It does not really matter, because this is transcendent perspective. It's outside of space and time. So in a transcendent perspective, all of this expression, all of this is like a video game. It's meaningless, yes? And this is another paradox, because from that perspective, it's meaningless, but from your first person immersion, something is really frustrating. And it's like, right? Or you're like, I really, really love this. Like, I don't want to give up this toy. Like, I don't want to give up this toy. No, and mom, she tried to take my toy. And now we had a fight. I don't want to give up my toy. You have to share the toy with your sister, and then like, but I want to be sure the sister can play with my toy. She give it back to me. Okay, my kitty. Yeah. So see, something that we identify with, and that can be this tiger, or that can be my national identity, that can be my gender identity, that can be the flag or the soccer team I support, or whatever. It can become a thing that we're ready to fight for, even ready to die for, ready to kill for, when we are immersed in our first person identity. Okay? And that makes us also sometimes stupid, because we can't see other people's perspectives, right? But then when we go outside of life and say, okay, all this like karmic lesson where we have seen somebody not as ourselves, and we weren't able to discharge the seeming polarity or the opposition and create a synergy so we can learn from each other and evolve. This evolution is synergy. That made us really frustrated. And this frustration was how we are not allowing the unification, because we are repelling the seeming opposite instead of uniting with it. So from your God self standpoint, bro, it's all forgiven, because it's a game that God, quote unquote, plays with itself. So even to the point where, like, you, the Son of God, come here as a puppet of Jesus, okay? And then you're crucified by these other puppets who see you as a threat. At the same time, you as a puppet of Jesus, you're like, bros, you're me. Like, can you relax and like see what I'm trying to say? I'm already in the light body. I'm already transcendent of your weapons or crucifixions. They can actually affect me. They can hurt me, because already I know myself on a transcendent level. I'm a holographic light form that is inhabited by consciousness, the infinite consciousness, that is you guys. You're in a flesh suit, and you're threatened. Your animals are threatened by a different perspective, because you can't understand it yet. So you're deciding to kill me, yeah? And I can't really fight with you, right? I could fight to protect myself, but like, I'm beyond that level. So you know what? I'm just gonna like not be mad at you. And that is the same thing like when I was a kid. I felt so much compassion for my father, because sometimes being playful little toddler, I would like hit my father. One time I hit him in the balls, and I could tell, okay, now the empathy, because you're doing something, you're playing, and then the empathy, because you can feel, oh my God, my father, this like person that I love the most and loves me the most, I hurt him. But he was just, and he was just like, it's okay, don't worry about it. He was compassionate. And then I was touched by that. So I didn't understand that at the time, but I was like very touched. I was deeply moved. How he could not get mad at me, right? Because for him, even though he was in some pain, it was just a childish gesture, right? And he was already mature enough to understand that, so there was no need to like protect or retaliate, right? He was like, don't worry, it's okay, right? And that stayed with me as a like something that looped in my consciousness, like a memory of something really like loving and beautiful, right? And now I can also make sense of it in a more rational analogy with like Jesus and things, right? But now, if I also jump into like past lives that have replayed in my individuality, where this one consciousness goes into branches and creates these soul families and whatnot. So you have many kind of like lives, they call it past lives, but they gravitate around your branch. Okay, there's a big tree of life and there's branches. So something gravitates around your branch, incarnations. And then when you move in consciousness all the way to the root of consciousness, then you're also witnessing the lessons from these gameplays or past lives or parallel lives, yes? And many times I have killed or have been killed, and sometimes in a similar fashion, like to Jesus, like, or I was a witch and they burned me alive, or they ripped me apart with 4 horses or whatnot, or something like I had a war or a dispute, or I killed many people in battle, or I was killed. And sometimes I would see the same people. Like the same people from that movie, from that game, in this setting, in this time space here. And we're in different roles, and we're maybe buddies, or we maybe just have an occasional karmic encounter where we're having a beer, and I'm like looking, and I'm like, this person, we've been in a battle, we have savagely, violently battled and with our tribes and families and whatnot, and we have destroyed each other, and I've killed so many of their tribes and whatnot, and there was all this pressure to preserve my whatever was homeland or my planet. Sometimes it was maybe in the future or in another planet, or sometimes it was on this planet in different epochs, yeah. And now you see them and you're like, no one ever really died. So it's funny because now, from this perspective, I still get the emotional charge from this karmic lesson or whatever, this memory that was embedded with my soul contract, with my soul family, with my branch. I was experiencing, seeing that people that trigger something in me, and then all these memories. I'm like, but we're having a coffee now, and they're cool, and there's no dispute because there's no context for dispute. This whole lifetime is a completely different context, right? And so your karmic shuffle, throughout your incarnations, is you've been a Nazi. And you kill people based on them not being pure-blooded, whatever genetic of Nazis, or whoever they were, right? Like German Nazis, right? Pure blood, and then kill these other tribes, right? And then actually, you maybe have incarnated before or after exactly into this other tribe. And have been born, and what you know in the first 30 years of your life, that the tradition, the culture will have raised you and gave you a context of family and friendship and everything as the opposite tribe. You see? Because on the ultimate level, you're playing with yourself, yes? So then how to transcend these polar oppositions if there is such charge with being identified, with being this person, this ego, or wider ego of my tribe, my nation, or my race, or my culture, or whatever that is, right? So funny enough, somebody who has, maybe you see them talking now against, they're really passionately against, they're homophobic. They might incarnate being gay. Next life, you know what I mean? Or in this life, they might find association with people of this sexual orientation, like gay people, yeah, and then transcend their perspective by finding, oh, but they're like really cool people, and now I got to be friends with a few of them, and they're really fun, and and so then kind of like the defragmenting the personal charge, mental and emotional structure, okay, where you're projecting that like this somebody that's unlike you and completely opposite to you, there must be in the wrong. You see? So something then about going into your meditation, going into your transcendent self. Now, if you practice any form of meditation, and it's not this 0 point or transcendent form of meditation where you're hitting that space outside of space and time, then I might say you're not doing actually something. You're maybe sitting and you may be breathing and you may be contemplating your subconscious like input, or you may be like moving, and all of this can be have a function for your health, for your emotional body, for your physical whatever healing, or all of this stuff. But all of this stuff is going to be super amplified only if you exit. So I'm giving you a direction and permission slip to exit outside of space and time. Because when you start to look and observe your first person immersion from that point, everything here is going to harmonize automatically. Okay, so then you're not doing meditation, you're simply going where you already are, in nirvana. And observing from nirvana, being completely detached from all of your little personal checkpoints and nuances or disappointments in the past or whatever karmic like disputes, you are free of that. And when you see them, these energetic constructs, they will alchemize, or they will self-organize into harmony effortlessly. Okay, so this is a way to do meditation. Now another way is the way of inquiry, where you can also keep track using your linguistic mind. Okay, keep track of what you're doing. So I'm moving my awareness into the point from where my awareness is projected as space. And then I'm asking my awareness back there, where am I now? And who am I? And then I'm witnessing also myself. And so this is how I've kind of mapped out that there will be also like these two polar opposite energies that you can also see as the archetypal force, okay, the yin and the yang. And then the yin and the yang, the masculine and feminine form, they are your basically inner parents, inner mother, inner father, all right? Because one is the force of action, the one is the force of stillness. One is the force of electricity, the other is force of magnetism. And when they advise you, you need to be the child, or like Jesus is the child of the cosmos. So the yin and the yang is the cosmos, or the father-mother principle. Now when I say I'm the son of my father as Jesus, or whoever, like you, I'm the son of my father and mother, yes? Because these two are one and the same, but they're two. Okay. Now another paradox, we're not going to make it like polar opposites, mother, father. No, they are one, yes? On this level, non-duality works. And then the Trinity of the Holy Child and the Holy Mother and Holy Father, in Orthodox Christianity we say Trinity, which is also non-duality, because non-duality means unity or oneness, and unity in Trinity is this. This is how we also do when we say, so what is this? It represents Trinity in Christianity, right? So they don't say Mother, they say like Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Okay, so that's just confusing lingo, yeah, because you have dark space, calmness, and white space, like ejaculation of energy, right? And then you have the consciousness, and then the white space and dark space, they loom themselves into an avatar. So the avatar is a child. Now, before you are a flesh, you also have your light avatar, your light body, which is, it does not rot. It does not rot, it is not even in time, it is in the archetypal universe, so you are always perfect there. And this is your higher self. So your holographic light body is your higher self, which is also the prototype that is incarnated in flesh in every single one of your lifetimes, whether you are here or you might be incarnated as an elf or like some other being on another planet or another frequency bandwidth, whatever you want. You can call it planet, somewhere over there in the universe, or it's right here overlapping with this in another frequency. It's both true, because even then the space-time distance is relative. You can say there's no space-time, but there is a projection and a construct of space-time. You can experience it as actually distance between objects and distance between planets. But if you know how to shift frequencies or use portals, this is not actually removed from you, because when you collapse yourself to your 0 point, to your state of nirvana, everybody is looking from the same point into their respective experience in whatever space-time construct they're inhabiting. So the awareness is projected as space, yes? And in this space, the Jin and Yang, they can be your guides, okay? And you know what? The neutral self, the Brahman self, can also be your guide, being that it is the self or you that is seeing everything everywhere all at once. Every individuality in every single space-time construct everywhere all at once. So you're all-knowing, quantumly entangled, omniscient, and omnipotent on that level, right? And then you can channel that into your projected reality here, which we would call sorcery or sourcing, yes? Because you would use the omnipotence of your innermost self to project something, source something into projection of this reality. As sorcerers, therefore, or sorceresses. Okay, now, your higher self is the master of all of the lifetimes of the incarnation of your avatar. Now, there are many higher selves and they look different, and then how we are incarnated, we look different also. We correspond to our higher self. And basically, there are many, and there are many that are not even incarnating on these planets, and there are many that incarnate all over the universe, and so that's more complex. But looking for advice, you can have intimate conversation with your 0 point self, or the mother father self, or your holographic light self, angelic self if you want, or higher self, yes? And so on these different levels, there is like a different perspective, right? Because the non-dual perspective, the Brahman perspective, will always give you a very like dispassionate answer. As like, you know what? It's all a video game. It's all like made up, and it doesn't really matter what you do. And if you do this or you do that, it's all just because the 0 point self or the source self has only one impulse, either like feminine, rest, and like sweet, or express everything. So that also standpoint is very powerful for sourcing, because then you can give limitation to omnipotence or expression of everything, and you can channel that into your reality. And you're pretty much unlimited. Even as a human, you can manifest the universe. And I mentioned how I've experienced manifesting a whole freaking universe from being here in the first person and then zooming out and then being in the quantum field and being in the archetypal form and manifesting an entire universe. So pre-read, and here we're applying chosen limitations because we're choosing which country we're going to experience, and we're experiencing only one country at a time, right? And then maybe you can even like split your body in two, and you can be in two places at the same time, present, okay, which is like a yogic candy, yogi candy, like you can be at two places at the same time, but like multitasking is limited, right? Even if you have, or you've maybe seen Naruto, and he can like make clones and then be in a battle with like 100 clones at a time. So that is a yogic feast, right? And that's possible also. Still, you need to learn, you need to practice. Like for me, even driving a car and trying to talk on my phone or text somebody while I'm driving the car, it was too much. And then over time you get used to it. You can then entrain something to be in your epigenetic memory, the habit we call it, and then you can do few things at the same time. It's easier to do one thing at a time, and this is why we're also focusing here into very limited perspective of our respective individuality. I don't know, respectable. You know what I mean. Okay, so when I was doing this meditation before with the 0 point, and I came to like because you are going outside space-time, you can fast forward your timeline. You can see potential timelines of your, like you're here in the now, and then your timeline branch out. If you make this choice, you go this path. You make this choice, that path, that path, that path. And so you can even organize your timeline. This is also what I'm often talking about and teaching. And if you are new to my channel or if you like this stuff, hit subscribe, notifications, whatever you like. So I often talk about building your timeline, selecting the future from now, from immersing yourself into your subconscious from the 0 point, and then recreating your templates in your subconscious, mood boarding, inserting stuff, and that then being projected as your lifeline or timeline. So you're mood boarding and you're directing, and then the universe is producing your experience based on your choice, right? And everything is a choice. And sometimes we don't want to like go and like inspect all of the choices and what we have pre-written before we came into incarnation, because outside of space and time, you're a soul or your angelic self or your light self, and you're also projecting, you're going to different incarnations, coming into a limitation in order to experience some things. So from your higher self standpoint, you'll be, okay, so I'm going to go in this lifetime and I'm going to be really homophobic and like I'm going to be QQ's clan member and I'm going to like kill gay people or black people or whatever, like people, they scare me because they're different. And then in this lifetime I'm going to become a gay person and a black person, and right. So let's see how it all plays out. But then from your transcendent self, you're like, you know what? Really interesting. So much drama, so much tension, so much passion, so much everything, and then so much transcendence, so much forgiveness, so much healing, so much beauty, realizing that it was all like supercharged weirdness that I created in a theater, basically, right? Because you're already designing your lifetimes from outside of space-time, right? And you're looking also in, so why do we even like then, okay, question arises, like, why do we then like kill each other and like have all these fights and disputes when we already know on this level that it is all you, like it's all you, there are no enemies. So why do you as God self allow your individualization to fight and also sometimes like be very, very like nasty to each other? And the thing is that you, from this perspective, observe this as a theater. In this perspective, you are very identified with it, but you also want to have free will. So you from upstairs are not going to interfere with the free will, and in the free will of however these guys perceive what is happening, or right, you will evolve with choices that are presented to you in this very, very, very fine focus. So here you have laser focus, and you're identified in your first person immersion, okay? And then here you have relief, but when you're here, it's like, oh, it's so dynamic and interesting, and all this pressure and all this opposition creates such a intense, like creative engine that stimulates my desires to want to learn and experience and then go into adventure, and then so here is a very dynamic atmosphere because of it's supercharged with this like polar opposition. So it's always something. There's always a drive. All right. And so here is so chill that it's almost boring. Because in heaven, nobody needs to go to work, everything is automated, and there's no reason to actually be creative even. You're in a state of pure bliss, pure enjoyment all the time, right? So you can just make things for the sake of curiosity or something, but then down here is more of kind of like, it's a pressure cooker. And all these things come out of it that would never come out of this sphere. Okay, this is the heaven sphere, there's a purgatory sphere, this is like the hell, where like supercharged competition, trying to survive. Who's gonna be the competitors? Who's gonna be the best MVP basketball player of the year? Like so everybody's like trying so freaking hard. When you're God, and here in this region everybody's God, so you don't need to try hard. So the consciousness cycles. It goes like through these like cosmic cycles. It goes from down here to up here. These are called yugas, right? So they're larger cycles when you go in the super competitive mode, where it's like dog eat dog, and like, so we call that dark age. And then cosmic cycle, relief. Now we're going from dark age to relief. We're passing relief. We're hitting the golden age. I was like, oh my God, we're all God. It's like all the theater that we were not remembering. It was like, you killed me, I killed you, resolving all the past. Like, forgive, I love you. Like, but there's no like even like charge. So we create from even higher heavens, we create all kind of these dynamics and like special simulations with different type of this, basically. I don't know what this is called, like nodal networks that decide on how something is going to play out, atoms, whatever. We create different aquariums or pressure cookers where things are going, where natures of these cosmoses or simulators is going to make something happen. And they're generative environments. Okay, and this is why we have the multiverse and like infinite crazy stuff. Planets with people and what cities and like countries and whatnot. Okay, we went a little bit broad. And this is your like ultimate being or God self. It's just like, let's try all of it. So let's automate some generative simulators and then have millions of planets with millions of civilizations. As like you have your God mind, which is like a computer with all these servers and all these like unique aquariums where nature does its thing. It generates cosmoses, planets and vegetables and like beings, and everybody lives, and I don't know, sometimes they can advance levels, sometimes they live and recycle and die and then change form, whatever. The only reason for all of that is experimentation. Curiosity, experimentation of the infinite intelligence to kind of like create something. Toys, you can call it toys. Why do we love toys also? Now, you in your first person, you have perhaps some burden, and the advice your higher self can give you, or your ultimate self can give you, or your father, mother, universal can give you, can be very relieving. So I remember this one time. Now, all the time I simulate transcendence or dying, because all the time I practice meditation in this going to 0 point and then reflecting with my first person, reflecting with my Brahman, right? And then in between, whatever is talking, whatever is channeling this transmission is the higher self, yes? Because the pure self, the empty self, it does not talk yet. It's like even further removed from the construct of the lingo or the archetypal construct or whatever, right? So it does not talk. It's very archetypal or prototypal. Like the yin and yang, they don't really talk. They just swirl. You know what I mean? So in order to bring some intelligence or reason to all of this, you need to use your higher self or your higher mind, which is universal mind, because you are in the quantum sphere, and you on this level also have access and the keys to all of the libraries of all the information that is structured. So structured information, sometimes called Akashic record, sometimes called just like the infinite field of information or the superconscious. It's like where you can see in your mind's eye all of this information, and it's prompt based. Like when I sit, I don't think about anything, but then when I start to talk about something, these different currents and energies just come in, and then the mind-body puppet is like reading the storyline. So I'm transmitting a storyline through my puppet, through my avatar, then just reading from like all these different perspectives of the universal self, yes? And even the trans-universal self, because we can jump another level and go beyond this universal construct or simulator. So let's connect, already 40 minutes. Let's connect all of this back into a first person and rewind to my experience coming into 0 point, and I'm see myself dying in this life, because I was like, okay, let's see, am I going to be satisfied with what I did, right? But there are different timelines that is like a possible timeline. So this is like a little bit weird when you're going outside space-time, like how my life used to look. Now I'm 40 years in this lifetime, but I don't remember one life. I remember multiple quantum. Like for every single detail that happened in my life, it's fluid, my past. So is my future, right? So you can change this. This like called sometimes timeline transformation, timeline healing, because you can change what happened in the past, as also you're selecting what is going to happen in the future. So let's say you reinterpret that you were always like happy and successful, and defragment some impression that was like your memory of things being otherwise, and you shift your past timeline. Now you feel like a different person. Now you feel like a different person, you shift your future timeline, right? So these are anchor points, is your energetic memory. But if you are used to quantum shifting, you're used to your body transmuting your energetic memory, your cellular memory, and you can remember then different things. And you can, in a physical reality, you also find yourself with people who behave differently and remember different things. Okay, so there's no objective reality then, because every time you shift how you perceive reality, you shift also how you project reality. Let me give you an example of this. I had a girlfriend, and then she didn't want to eat ice cream, and she was like fruitarian, so she was like, no ice cream. I was like, I'm so sad, this sucks. I hate it. I was like going for a walk on my own. I'm like, I hate this, because why can't I have a girlfriend that I just want to eat ice cream with me? Why you have to be like with all this like limitation of your individuality? We can't enjoy our time together. I made the ice cream, or I found a really nice ice cream. I wanted to share my discovery, and like, it would be so cool. So I come back home same day. She's like, hey Han, like you need to try this ice cream. It's like the best ice cream ever. I love ice cream. She's like, I always like from the day I was born, I was just like eating ice cream. I'm like, you're inconsistent. This morning you were telling me like, no way I would ever in my life eat ice cream. I would die because I eat only fruit, and that would like ruin my whatever, right? Now I'm in a parallel timeline, the same day, right? But different timeline, and the same person, almost the same person, or another version of her, really into ice cream. Okay, so I'm not going to explain this technically, because I could also go in a vertical and say how it all works and scripting and everything, but you can do it, you can try it, play with it, and it's fun. Just don't expect linearity, don't expect objectivity, because it can be weird. Now, I'm looking at my life from beyond, and I'm actually at my deathbed, and I'm this guy, I'm Jovan, but I'm like dying. I'm leaving my body, and I'm like old, not feeling old, feeling the same, but I'm just like I'm like moving my spirit and like leaving this body. But as I'm moving my spirit, and I'm seeing like a few timelines, like my life went this way, or my life went that way, or my life went that way, I'm like, cool, my life, I can shift now also. What am I choosing to actually continue doing with my life in the now? Because the resume is already there. Like if I was a writer, if I was a movie director, if I was an artist, if I was like a lover, if I was a porn star, if I was a businessman, if I was a horse rider, if I was a, so you can see like, like it's all good. Like, but maybe like this has like some impact with this lifeline had an impact with a whole lot of people in the collective, and that made me the most satisfied, right? And now it does not matter because I always shift. And all the time you shift with your like where you give awareness, where you give emotional reaction, what you design in your contemplation, in your mood boarding. It can always shift because it's infinite reality and everything is you, and you can sample all of this stuff. And so trajectories, right? They're shiftable. So what fun it would be if everything was determined. And it is determined up to a point where it's following your natal chart before you learn how to walk, talk, move, integrate your 0-point perspectives into your spiritual, your higher self. Then you can choose. Okay. First of all, it's like autopilot. You preload and then it's chosen trajectory. And that timeline you can't really, it's kind of fixed for you from above. So you're here and timeline is fixed for you for the first 33 years, for example, because from above you see this is going to take me some time to like understand how the game works, to remember all of myself, right? So I had to have pre-scheduled spiritual awakening, pre-scheduled like friends, soul family, whatever, contracts, how my life is going to operate. So you direct the movie, then you produce it, then you incarnate. And then the movie rolls. And then when you learn how everything works through this pre-designed movie, then you're like, okay, now I'm free and I can choose my destiny, so now I can shift and have variable lifelines. So as I move and I'm saying, okay, this lifeline was like very cool, I'm going to make a YouTube and I'm going to talk to people because obviously I see these things, arrangements, architecture of reality in a way, and I can also be like funny and like stupid, and so like let me be a fun like spiritual teacher and the father of 5 kids and artist, chosen lifeline, cool. But then I see also, you know what? When I'm going out like a little ghost leaving your body when you die in a video game, I'm going out of this lifeline. I am this tree of many, 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 many branches. And all of them are lives. And all of them are interesting, even the pinky one, because I was just like, I just had 3 dogs and I was reading a lot of books and I didn't have many friends in this life. But like my library was amazing. I studied so many books. So I was like quiet lifetime, kept to myself, didn't influence the world, didn't go to so many like battles, didn't learn how to do kung fu, shoot guns, or do samurai shit. Like, no, I was just like reading books in the library all by myself. But I branched out there because it was so peculiar. It was so interesting, right? And then this one, I was like a military leader in like a military fraction in the Second World War, and like respected nobleman, general, everybody like praised me. Then I got finally killed, like after captured by enemies, whatever, shot. So like, kind of like it resonates more with the collective and the time and the epicness of that battle and whatnot. The mindset, the justice, the like always anguish prevailing from all the sides, the war, and then you have to make the right choices and what. So like a lot of deep, strong emotional experience in this one. Like the emotional experience, like from reading books, like all of these perspectives, kind of sampling. But then all of these books go to the same tree. All of this emotional experience go to the same tree. All of this stuff I'm doing in this life, I'll go to the same tree. And then the tree integrates that and sprouting out more branches and using every single experience to kind of like brainstorm and mood board the ideas for what all these other incarnations that like go on these branches are going to do, which is all going to feed back into like the same map or the same epoch or the same planet or the same cluster of planets or the same cluster of civilizations or the interplanetary. You see? So every single thing, like even if you get like to be like you get this cube and some people are like, you know, they do tricks or magic and just like take one cube or a deck of cards and just do that. And all of a sudden they like discover a whole funnel of like the whole universe of experience that you can design around this. Something so minute, something so small, and you give all your life, all your attention to that. This is the nature of the ultimate you and your higher self and then your lifeline. So interesting, yeah? Now, when you can go be Brahman outside of space and time, you have one advice for yourself, which is pretty non-dual. Like, don't worry, it's all a game. You'll see in the end, right? just like do whatever. It's gonna play out anyway, right? You can't really escape it. It's gonna play out even if you make this choice or that choice. It's gonna bring you back to the juxtapose, like, and this is like the non-dual advice, yeah. But then your higher self advice, okay, is like seeing all of the incarnations, and it also understands why you need to play only with this, because you have all of these other incarnations where you're already doing all of this other stuff, right? So it's not as like higher self sometimes going to push you, the incarnate, the first person immersion, to stay on point with something because like already it knows, already have experience, or already like it covered like in other lifetimes, in other incarnations, like some kind of thing. I don't know, like I covered like samurai shit. So I came here to be an artist, and I came here to do something of a modern day and age. So I don't go a lot and play with swords, right? But I have an innate capacity. Also, like some piano. Like I never played the piano, I never practiced it. I have the quantum activation from my other lifetime through my higher self that I am, but just like merging these other perspectives. Like if I close my eyes, I can play the piano. So if I close my eyes, I can do martial arts. If I close my eyes, if thing is channeled through me from this infinite memory database, I can even speak languages that I don't know. But I'm not focused on that, because all my days I'm spending investigating some things that are really cool in this era, in this gameplay. And so you on your deathbed, and you as your higher self, can give your first person immersion a lot of relief. In the same way that right now, what you would say to your 7-year-old self when you got like really bummed out because your brother ate all of the cookies and you were crying like and screaming and like throwing tantrums the whole night, you know? And if you could be in your shoes right now, you'd be like, I'm just gonna get myself like infinite cookies when I grow up. Look, kid, just chill. I promise you, when you grow up, you're gonna buy yourself infinite cookies. You can eat them every day. You don't need to worry about like your brother or whatever. Chill. Because already I'm here in the future. I'm eating cookies right now, and I have them ready. They're waiting for you. So if you just like relax now, wait a little bit, have some patience, like all of the cookies are gonna be yours. And this, you and your deathbed or your future self knows also about all the hurdles, all the tension in relationships, if you have conflict or something, right? Like I've experienced pretty intense conflict, unresolvable like juxtaposition of perspectives that took 2 years of just like intense, just too emotional, intense 2 years. Like it was the worst. I had a kid, and then I had to separate from my partner because simply we were like not on the same frequency, not speaking the same language. And honestly, I was like, I don't want to like leave my kid. I don't want to like go. I need to go back to Europe. My kid lives in Bali. It was like all this like unresolvable situation for me. And I was getting so upset for 2 years. And then, you know, in time, things are getting resolved and it's all working out somehow, and it's all going to work out and be even better. And my kid is only 3 years old, so it's going to be fine. Like in this lifetime and in a wider perspective and more removed in retrospect, it's all fine. It's going to work out. It's not a big of a deal. But to me, in that perspective, it was the first time I had a kid. Now, I had cats, I had dogs, I had apartment, I had car, I had looked after things, and I have cared for people and relationships and whatnot. But I was like, this is a big thing. I don't want to mess up. I want to be responsible. I don't want to mess up. I was putting myself under so much pressure. Out of love and out of sense of duty and responsibility, but then it was like in the reality where like I can't stay and make it work from that constellation. I had to remove myself, zoom out, and then like see how life will deal the cards and like accept this new constellation. That was the only actually option. But I was eating myself up, right, for 2 years. And I wasn't really feeling, I was feeling like shit. I was not feeling that well at all. Had all of these emotions, and like my mind couldn't work it out. And in the end, just surrender. Life works it out, right? So in these times where everything seems so frustrating, everything seems like you don't know the way and whatnot, only if you can fast forward 7 years in the future and you look at the situation and you examine, or 20 years even, like imagine in 20 years, like right now, all of the things that I'm choosing, and I have the pressure of these two, whether I choose this or like in 20 years, I will already, this even before I'm dead and my deathbed and like transcending life or going into Brahman, going into complete non-duality, I still care for things. Right here in the first person, I still care for things. I care for my kid, I care for my dog, I care for my parents, I care for so many things. I deeply, passionately care for. Now, in 20 years, I'm still caring for all of these things, but I already made it work. I made it work. I made my empire. I designed a kingdom. I made so much money. I made so much people happy. I created all this amazing architecture. I've changed the surface of this like planet, the objective reality that we physically experience. I've co-created, I've helped, I coached, mentored so many people. So in 20 years, like, I'm known, I'm respected for what I did. I don't need like respect and recognition for everybody else, because your innermost self already know that you are infinity, you are life itself. So it's not like an egoic thing, but it's like you are situated in a place. In 20 years, I am situated in a place where I am recognized, okay, and I have an authority. And people seek out my perspective. And it's helpful. And I'm grateful that I can be a humble servant to everybody. Yeah? And I can help, but also my help is sought for. But today, I'm like stressing over really like, I have a like toilet seat right here that I'm trying to fix. And I'm like, oh my god, like, can I do the video and I have a toilet seat on a desk, or should I like move it? I don't want to like have a toilet seat in my video. You see, so choice and your passion to do something, and then also now I can just like ignore the toilet seat and still make the video, but everything is an emotionally charged choice point, right? Remove the toilet seat or keep it in the video, right? And it freaking does not matter. Tomorrow it does not matter. And in 2 years, almost nobody remember. And it was like a great pressure, great trauma, or something like, you know, like past lifetime in a war, people being killed, me being afraid for my life, me being killed, burned alive, whatever, like. Then it's still like I feel awkward. I don't want to go talk to people like they're gonna burn me. They're gonna crucify me, you know what I mean? So there's all these like memories. They're being sometimes relived over like the next day, sometimes over 2 years, sometimes over 20 years, 7 years. Sometimes you need another lifetime to see the incarnation from a completely different perspective. And then you can also let go of something that happened in the previous incarnation, something like this. But there is you to advise you, you see? And finally, already an hour, I'm going to tell you that if you want to entrain yourself to move from these respectful standpoints, your first person immersion, your innermost self, higher self, Jin and Jan, Brahman, infinite source, whatever, multiverse, you may find that it's like an antenna that kind of moves where your awareness is kind of going. Kind of, because I don't really know, but like feels like if I hold my attention which really I'm just like anchoring with this mudra like here, and then I'm talking, the energy rotates in a way that it gives me information about like what is true to my heart. And then here is like an amalgamation of all of my parallel lives, right? And then here is like somehow, or for some reason, here is like the non-duality, it's like the emptiness, right? Because it's kind of like in the background. And then over there is like, ooh, that's weird, that's an inverted universe. So there's sort of like the spatial awareness, and if you can focus your attention in space, you can then map out for yourself like the geographic mapping of like where am I seeing things from, right? And get some inquiry first. So like, is my perspective the most relevant, the perspective of my heart, or the perspective of my left brain or right brain, or like third eye, or like eighth chakra, or this like whatever, right? Whatever your language or whatever your mapping is the most comfortable to you. So you don't have to call it heart, you don't need to call it eighth chakra, you don't need to call it the cosmos or the multiverse or whatever. Call it whatever you want, right? But find out for yourself, map it out for yourself. And then just see how when you move the camera or the perspective, the focus of your awareness in space, how you can get tuned in into these different perspectives. I hope this was interesting to you. I hope this was helpful. Comment. And also, if you have any questions and you want me to elaborate on some topics, drop a comment. Yeah, I would be... I love to talk to you. I love to interact with you in this way. All right? All right, bye-bye.